Welcome to the channel. Please subscribe if you like stories about the ancient world. We have already shattered the myth. We know that the Chinchorro people of the Atacama Desert were the first masters of mummification, a full 2 millennia before Egypt. But to call them simply the first is to miss the most fascinating part of their story. Their quest for eternity was not a static, unchanging ritual. It was a living, breathing tradition that evolved over 5,000 years. They experimented, they innovated, they expressed different philosophies through their practices. Today, we will embark on a deep dive into the 3 great chapters of their art: the profound and severe black mummies, the vibrant and symbolic red mummies, and the enigmatic, simplified, bandaged mummies. This isn't just a story about preserving the dead. It's a story about how a society's understanding of life, death, and memory transformed over centuries, told through the most intimate art form imaginable. Our journey begins with the oldest and most radical form, the black mummies. Dating from 7,000 to 3,000 BC, these are not merely preserved bodies. They are masterpieces of prehistoric bioengineering, a complete reimagining of the human form. The process was breathtakingly complex and must have required incredible ritual knowledge and technical skill, passed down through generations. Let's deconstruct it step by step. First, the body was treated with the ultimate reverence through the ultimate deconstruction. Using sharp stone tools, the morticians would make incisions to completely skin the deceased. The skin was carefully set aside, like a sacred garment. Then, the body was taken apart. All internal organs, every muscle, and the brain were meticulously removed. The brain was often extracted through the foramen magnum at the base of the skull, or by removing vertebrae. This left only the bare skeleton. But the Chinchorro weren't done. A skeleton is fragile, so they reinforced it. They would take wooden poles, sometimes up to 2 meters long, and tie them along the spine, the arms, and the legs with sinew or plant fibers. This was the armature, the internal scaffolding that would prevent the body from collapsing. Then, the true act of creation began. The empty body cavity was stuffed with a special mixture: fine clay, soils from the desert, feathers, ashes from previous fires, and plant fibers. This wasn't just stuffing, it was sculpting. They were rebuilding the volume and contours of the living person. Finally, the original skin was sewn back onto this new, artificial body, often using cactus spines as needles. And then, the final transformation. The entire figure, from head to toe, was covered in a thick, glossy paste of manganese, giving it a uniform, striking black color. The face was often given a simple, mask-like features, with a small mouth and slits for eyes. The result was a rigid, statue-like figure, a person remade not of flesh, but of earth, wood, and mineral. The deeper meaning. What was the philosophy behind this intense process? The complete disassembly and reassembly suggest a belief in a necessary transformation. Death wasn't just an end, it was a deconstruction that required a literal rebuilding for the afterlife. The black color, while striking to us, may have held multiple meanings. It could have symbolized the decay preceding rebirth, the darkness of the earth to which we return. Or perhaps it was simply the most durable and available pigment, creating a protective shell against the elements. The black mummy was a new creation, an eternal, symbolic body replacing the temporary, mortal one. Around 2500 BC, a dramatic shift occurred. The Chinchorro began moving away from the total reconstruction of the black method towards a new, equally powerful style: the red mummies. This was not a decline in skill, but a revolution in thought. The technique became less about deconstruction and more about preservation and symbolism. The process evolved significantly. Instead of complete disarticulation, the morticians now used strategic incisions. Long cuts were made in the groin, the shoulders, and sometimes the ankles. Through these openings, the organs and soft tissues were removed. To aid in desiccation, the inside of the body cavity and the limbs were often dried with hot coals, a direct form of mummification that we see later in Egypt. The body was then stuffed with various organic materials, but the skeleton was largely left intact. The complex wooden armature was no longer used. The most profound change was aesthetic. The body was painted not with black manganese, but with a vibrant, earthy red ochre. This pigment, made from iron oxide, is the color of blood, the color of life, the color of the desert earth under the setting sun. It was a powerful symbolic departure from the black of the previous era. But the Chinchorro maintained a connection to their past. While the body was red, the head was treated differently. The face was often covered with a thin layer of black manganese or paste, and a magnificent wig of human hair, sometimes up to 60 centimeters long, was attached. This created an unforgettable visual contrast. The red body, pulsating with the symbolism of life, and the detailed, personalized head with its distinct wig and mask, preserving the identity of the individual. The deeper meaning. The red mummy represents a fundamental philosophical shift. The focus moved from the physical transformation of the deceased to their symbolic representation in the community of the living. The red ochre strongly suggests an emphasis on rebirth, the life force, and continuity. The deceased was not completely remade, but rather preserved and reanimated with the color of life. The detailed, personalized head and wig ensured that the person was not an anonymous statue, but a recognizable ancestor, still present among the living. This was a more intimate, perhaps more compassionate form of immortality. The final chapter in the Chinchorro mummification saga is the most enigmatic. Sometime after 2000 BC, the elaborate techniques of the red and black mummies gradually gave way to a simpler method, often referred to as the bandaged or mud-coated style. It's crucial to understand that this was not necessarily a loss of knowledge or a cultural decline. It was likely another evolution, driven by changing beliefs, environmental pressures, or social reorganization. The process of the bandaged mummies was markedly less invasive. There was no dismemberment, no major incisions. The body was naturally desiccated, likely using wind and the dry desert air. Once dried, it was carefully prepared for its final state. It was wrapped in a flexible shroud. This shroud could be the skin of a sea lion, creating a durable, waterproof casing, or it could be a woven mat made from reeds and grasses. In many cases, after being wrapped, the entire bundle was given a final coat, a layer of mud or clay, applied like a simple, earthy plaster, sometimes even modeling crude facial features. The deeper meaning. What does this simplification tell us? There are several compelling theories. One is a shift in spiritual beliefs. Perhaps the focus moved away from the intense, hands-on physical preservation of the body and toward a more symbolic act of bundling and protecting the spirit for its journey. The mud shell acted as a simple, effective tomb. Another theory is resource availability or social change. As populations or climate patterns shifted, the incredibly time-consuming and resource-intensive processes of the past may have become unsustainable. The bandaged method was efficient, accessible, and still deeply ritualistic. It maintained the core Chinchorro principle of caring for the dead in a special way. But it adapted that principle to new circumstances. The individual was no longer rebuilt or painted with life, but was instead cocooned, returned to the earth in a protective shell, signifying a different, but no less respectful, path to the afterlife. From the radical reconstruction of the black mummies to the symbolic life force of the red mummies, and finally to the respectful bundling of the bandaged mummies, the Chinchorro narrative spans over 5,000 years. That's an almost unimaginable stretch of time, longer than the entire history of ancient Rome from foundation to fall, repeated twice over. This evolution shows us a people deeply, profoundly engaged with the mystery of mortality. They were not afraid to change their answers. They were the world's first thanatologists, the first philosophers of death, using the tools of art, science, and ritual to converse with eternity. Their legacy is not a single technique, but a testament to the human need to find meaning in the face of the unknown, to honor our loved ones, and to leave a mark that says, "We were here, and we mattered." Their journey forces us to ask, which approach resonates with you most? The transformative power of the black style, the vibrant symbolism of the red, or the simple, earthy return of the bandaged? The conversation about life and death that the Chinchorro started 7,000 years ago is still alive today. Share your thoughts in the comments. If you want to continue exploring the deepest corners of our past with us, help our community grow. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more journeys into the unknown. Thank you for watching.